We've all got backlogs. From the best of the best, the Marios, the Kirbys, the Pokemons, to the niche, the Lufias, the Striders, the Dragon Quests, to even the stinkers. There are thousands of games worth playing from the short 50-year history of retail video games, but ROM hacks and fan games are just as worthwhile, and today I'm taking this one off of my backlog. I'm beating the first ever Pokemon ROM hack, Pokemon Brown, 100% using the power of RetroAchievements. This is a site that gives Xbox-style achievements or PlayStation-style trophies to retro games, from the Atari days to around the 6th generation of consoles. There are thousands of games with achievement sets available there, so if you want to give one a try, I'll leave a link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and if you want to choose what ROM hack or official title I do my next Retro Achievements 100% video in, become a member of the channel. It's only $2 a month, and you get access to videos a day early, and those polls to choose which ROM hack or official game I'll be doing next. And if you want to help support the channel more, there's a $5 a month option that'll give you one bonus challenge video a month. This month, it's a Retro Achievements 100% playthrough of Super Mario 64, one of the all-time classics. But with that, let's delve into this over 20-year-old Pokemon ROM hack. So Pokemon Brown is pretty interesting given it adds Pokemon from future generations, but seeing as this is an updated version from between 2009 and 2014, compared to the original release in 2004, there are Pokemon from Gens 1 through 4, as well as a single edition from Gen 6 in Sylveon considering Eevee's in the game, and we'll have to complete the Pokedex to 100% this game. There's 40 achievements, so let's not waste any more time. Day 1 of the challenge, and I'm starting in Seashore City, heading straight south to Gravel Town to meet up with Professor Tim. He's offering the normal starters of Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, in which case I choose Squirtle for my run, going straight against the rival named Mura. I saved right before since I have to beat him in this fight for an achievement, being able to do so on just 1 HP thanks to him being a moron and using Growl as his final attack instead of Tackle, letting me steal the win and get the rival round 1 achievement. With that, I can head into the town's mart to get Tim's pizza, which kinda makes more sense than a custom Pokeball that we never got to see from Professor Oak, allowing me to pick up Pokeballs and head straight into Merson Cave to the southeast of the town to start catching some Pokemon. For the first area, Merson Cave's home to a lot of stuff like Zubat, Geodude, 2 Clefairy to prepare for a trade later, 2 Slowpoke for a split evolution, and Diglett, filling my team up to 6 to earn the party is the best achievement for assembling a full team, but there's more. One more on the first floor, that being Sandshrew, with Vulpix being housed in the second area of the cave. I'm also putting as much experience as possible into the newly evolved Wartortle, since there's some achievements that require me to beat some boss fights with only 1 Pokemon in my party, and I think the range that Blastoise will have with the likes of Ice and Water attacks, along with some decent physical options like Dig and Hyper Beam, give me a great first choice so I don't have to waste any experience later on. Though I will have to evolve quite a few Pokemon, so it's good to have something that can take hits while swapping back and forth for switch training. Last up here in Merson Cave is Cubone on the second basement floor, a 1% encounter in the first area that let me level so much of my team. Just gotta hope there's not too many of these because they're the bane of my existence and stuff like this. Outside of the cave is Route 54, home of Doduo, Rattata, Pidgey, Ekans, Bellsprout, and 2 Abra for another trade later since each of the trades have their own associated achievement. They also give me a bit of trouble thanks to the stupid ability to teleport, but it wasn't too bad. It only took me 4 Abras to get to. Merson City itself is just to the east and has a single patch of grass which houses some really high level Pokemon for this point in the game, even with all of the grinding I've done so far, so it's a nice training spot while I grab Pikachu, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Paris, with Route 55 just above housing a gift Porygon, earning me the That's Just Program code achievement. Not too shabby, especially with the trade right across the underground path to Route 52, where I can trade Abra for Magmar, earning Fire is better than Psycho. But of course, there's still wild Pokemon here in Caterpie and Oddish, but I don't want to treat this like a Professor Oak's challenge, and I've already passed through Merson City and its first gym leader, Carpman. His Horsea and Vaporeon are only level 10 and 12 respectively, which does kinda cream my Diglett and Geodude, but I do manage to pull through easily enough, earning the Marine Badge and the Defeat Cartman achievement. 5 down, 35 to go. Before heading north of Route 55, though, there is a cave here in Mount Boulder, housing the likes of Psyduck, Drowsy, Growlithe, and Seal, letting me head up north into Hayward City. There's another trade to perform here, that being the second Clefairy that I got in Merson Cave for Lapras, earning I think Swim is the best. Very caveman-esque achievement name. Why use many word when few word do trick? Going toward the northern exit is our second battle against Mura, improving the team heavily with Koffing, Doduo, and Cubone along with Bulbasaur, but I'm still able to wipe him off the map to earn the rival round 2 achievement. Not quite headed north yet though, since there are 2 Pokemon that lie to the west of the city on Route 64, with both Nidoran male and female. Speaking of Nidoran female though, I was looking up hidden items, and apparently in the underground path that we already passed through, there's a hidden moonstone, but turns out that's in a different version of the game. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take Nidoqueen instead of getting both that and Clefable, since there's a trade for Nidoking using it later for an achievement. Not a problem though, the achievement for finishing the Pokedex does actually reflect this, so no need to worry. North of Hayward City contains only 1 new Pokemon in Weedle, but this is where our Nugget Bridge and SS Ticket style area is here in Region. So I'm able to plow through these trainers and end up getting to the HM for Cut at the end, bypassing the need for any SSN analog. I actually like the idea of cutting the fat here. Going through 1 rival battle and a follow-up gauntlet to get the HM seems like better design, but I could go hard on why Region's design in brown here is Kanto-esque but still unique. It's a fun game for hunting around and learning an unknown region if you're familiar with Red and Blue and want that sense of discovery again, but it does feel like you're winding about quite a bit. Like when you have to go south from your starting city to Gravel Town to find the professor, a little wonky for design that was made when Gens 1 through 3 were the only mainline Pokemon games available as reference, but it does actually show itself in Gen 4 with going from Twinleaf Town to Sandgem Town for Professor Rowan. The game does put you on a path until Hayward City though, until that 3-way split, with both east and west being blocked until later, so it gives you a little sneak peek of, oh, I wonder when I'll get to explore these areas. So it does have some Kanto elements, but does it in a bit of a different way. It's really neat. Tangents aside, the north ends in a gate to Route 49 and straight into Ausari City. But I should probably pick up the 2 Route 49 encounters in Spearow and Tangela before taking on Lily for her Hail Badge inside of the city itself. Ice types aren't the hardest thing to take down in Gen 1, so her Jynx and Lapras end up falling to Wartortle and Slowpoke, earning me the Defeat Lily achievement. Not bad. Especially with the Pokedex counter going up to 41 with Beedrill, that's a 5th of the dex already handled. Speaking of, I do want to grind up my encounters from this point since there is an aid for the professor that provides the Super Rod, but only if you get 70 Pokemon in the dex. And since I don't want to have to backtrack very much, I just headed back to Mercen City and did the grinding in that small patch of grass where I got the Hitmons for high EXP yield, getting Nidorina and Nidoqueen along with a bit more grinding before hanging it up for the night. I only started at 7:16 PM that night, so getting that much done in about 6 hours isn't too bad. Let's see how much I can bash through on day 2. Lord knows waking up and going back to grinding is gonna make me want to go right the fuck back to sleep. So I got me some nice ice cold water, mixed in some gamer subs for my caffeine fix, and went straight back into it. I always liked fruity and sweet flavors way more than coffee, and I've literally been drinking gamer subs since high school, since before Schlatt became a partial owner of the company, so I'm a little bit biased. But if you want to give them a shot yourself, you can get a sugar-free, low-calorie caffeine fix, or if you prefer non-caffeinated varieties, head down in the description and use my affiliate link, then use code ChaoticMeat at checkout for 10% off. And from the point this video goes live on May 17th, for the next week, you'll get free shipping on any order. Plus, I get a little bit of a kickback, so if you want something physical while still supporting the channel, give it a shot. I'm particular to the pineapple cocktail and titty milk flavors, with the latter being a creamy blue raspberry. One day, I'm going to drink real titty milk straight from the source, and if it doesn't taste like creamy blue raspberry, I'm going to be mildly disappointed. Anyway, I managed to get Nidorino during that time, continuing the grind to register Weepinbell, Graveler, Arbok, Sandslash, Parasect, and Pidgeotto. But at that point I was so bored that I needed some semblance of progress, heading back to Hayward City and heading east onto Route 63 now that I have access to Cut outside of battle. Nothing new here wild Pokemon-wise, but I can head into the Silk Tunnel to capture Coughing, Grimer, Staryu, and Onix on the first basement floor, then finally Ponyta on the third basement floor. It's also a bit of a decent grinding spot for the grass and ground types, very easy place to get up the likes of Diglett and Tangela, eventually landing on the other side into the deep purple Moraga Town. This one's a bit brutal to look at, admittedly. I wish it was a little bit more lavender? Yeah, I know that was horrible, but it really would be nice if it was a less deep color to look at. At least the HM for Fly is here, as is the trade for Nidoking, offering Nidoqueen to get the Moonstone, just save it achievement. Speaking of achievements, I can get a bit of a double header here by heading straight into the gym for my third gym badge, facing off against Lois. To earn the Sprout badge and the Defeat Lois achievement. The mart offers Leaf Stones as well, so I can grab 2 of those to get Victory Bell and Vileplume. Nice little hub here. Bunch of stuff taken care of, but now I've got to head east to Route 60 for 2 new encounters in Meowth and Venonat. I also got the EXP all in the gate, which Oh lord, clicking through the text for that is agony while grinding. I would much rather just switch train. At least the route is short, getting me into Jeru City, which doesn't have much of interest aside from the mart, where I can get a Thunderstone to evolve Pikachu into Raichu, as well as a gym headed by Sparky. I mean, come on, they could have come up with a better name for a leader than that. That's a dog's name. He's easy enough to plow through though, having Raichu, Electabuzz, and Jolteon being pretty free thanks to Cubone and Tangela's broken Gen 1 bind mechanics. Taking the win, the Sparky badge, wow, the name of the badge is just the name of the gym leader, thus earning the Defeat Sparky achievement, and if I have to say Sparky one more time, I'm going to lose it. 4 badges down, 4 to go, but oddly enough, the entrance to the Region League through Route 65 is just to the north, and while I can only head through halfway, it does give entrance to Route 67 and the Seneca Caverns, housing some pretty darn high-level Pokemon for this point in the game. Like, geez, I am 10 levels lower. But I'm a bit stubborn, and I want to at least try to capture something here. Golbat is first on the chopping block, and I managed to whittle down one, despite it slaughtering most of my team, and then I'm able to also grab a Machoke and capture it as well, giving me some extra firepower for the time being. But I'm not ready to head any further up there, instead going east to Route 59, blowing through the trainers to reach the gate to Botan City. You need a keg of beer to get through here. I guess the guards want to be drunk on duty rather than be hydrated here in Region. But thanks to picking one up from the Hayward department store in place of a freshwater, I can head straight through and grab 2 Firestones from the mart for both Ninetales and Arcanine, bringing my total up to 56. Just a few more until I can grab that Super Rod. Speaking of a way to get new Pokemon though, there's a cave in the southern area of the town housing a few Johto Pokemon. Haven't seen any of these in the wild yet, so it's nice to be able to pick up Phanpy, Natsu, and Yanma before picking up the red orb from this random hiker. Huh, I wonder if Groudon lies somewhere then. And by the looks of how long it took me to find it, being around 40 minutes of in-game time, I imagine the 1% encounter here is Larvitar. It takes me about a half dozen Great Balls to get it, but that puts me at 70 out of 210 Pokemon total. Plenty enough to get the Super Rod, but screw it. We're here now, let's head to the Sylph Warehouse just to the west of the city. I gotta get through here to get Team Rocket out of the way for progression anyway, and there's some wild Pokemon in the form of Spinarak and Ghastly in the basement floor, while also housing the upgrade so I can evolve Porygon later on. Ascending through is an easy task since, of course, it's Team Rocket. Even in a ROM hack, they're kinda pushovers, peaking at the top with Giovanni. He's actually not as much of a pushover as the rest of the team though, since his Golbat manages to put down my Slowpoke pretty effectively. But Tangela manages to stunlock it into a knockout, with Rhyhorn and Marowak falling to Mega Drain, leaving just Persian to be stunlocked by Bind as well, eventually going down to 2 Mega Drains to earn me the Defeat Giovanni Round 1 achievement. Crazy that I'm halfway through the gyms and only at 12 out of 40 achievements, but we'll have a slew of them later I imagine. For winning, I'm able to get a Shiny Stone from this important dude over here, but nothing to evolve with it just yet. I still also can't open the card key doors. The item wasn't in here, so I guess I have to come back later. Very strange. At least now I can head south of Botan City, nothing new here, but on the other side of this route is Castro Valley, with one of the houses having a trade with a person who wants a Pidgey in exchange for a Chansey. Once again, very off-rarity trade here, but with a new Pokemon? Don't mind if I do. Getting the Just Heal achievement. I did end up looking up what the red orb does though, and turns out it's not Groudon. Instead, these are used in place of the drinks on top of the Hayward department store for some powerful TMs. In exchange for the red orb, I can get Shadow Ball. I guess that's cool, but it's a little underwhelming considering the name of the item and all. There's another gym in Castro Valley though, that I don't mind wiping through. Oh dear, never mind, I am actually too underleveled for this. I do manage to get at least through some of the trainers and see a blue Gligar? Cool I guess, but I should probably get some more levels before taking on the leader here. That's not all though, as the old rod is also around town. Funny that I could have gotten the Super Rod before this, but hey, that's a free Magikarp, so I can't complain. I guess I should do a quick grind to get that gym badge, with the route north having some pretty decent options, including Eradicate, and since I haven't evolved Rattata yet, why not grab one? Plus I can evolve a few mons like getting Marowak, Gyarados, and Haunter. All before finally feeling comfortable with taking on the Castro Valley gym leader, Koji, only to get killed into the sun because he's much closer to level 40 than I would have imagined. Well, back to grinding, I guess. At least it's an excuse to get Xatu, Pidgeot, Blastoise, Slowbro, and Donphan, but I'm really getting bored of this grinding nonsense. Tangela is still not evolved despite being level 38, since turns out they changed the evolution level from the level it learns Ancient Power in the official games, that being level 34, and instead increased it to level 55. Why make this guy a Dragonite level evolution? Regardless, I'm gonna skip over that gym for now, and instead head into the Haunted Forest north of Botan City for the next rival fight, with Coughing, Doduo, Ghastly, which fun fact is part gas type, so fire is super effective against it, Larvitar, and Ivysaur all going down pretty quickly to a mix of Tangela and Ponyta to earn the Rival Round 3 achievement. I should note that, yes, there are also new types in this hack to more properly express individual Pokemon, like Gas for Ghastly, Abnormal for the Porygon line, and then there's also Sound, Wind, and Wood, but they don't come up all too much aside from move typings. However, I can't really progress too much since the wild Pokemon are here glitched, I suppose? They don't use the same ghost sprite as in Pokemon Tower and Kanto, but I do need an item to make them visible. However, I don't need that to get the card key, which means I can head back into the Sylph Warehouse and pick up a few random items, including both a Trade Stone and a Red Amulet. We'll need the latter item later to get the HM for Strength, but the Trade Stone does take the place of Trade Evolutions, so I can go ahead and evolve Graveler into Golem. I do know where to get that item to open the Haunted Forest further up though, and that's in Castro Valley, which has a Pokemon Mansion analog. 3 new Pokemon here being Ariados, Houndour, and Persian, thankfully bypassing the need to grind Spinarak and Meowth, though there's a bit of a cave system underneath the area, containing Ditto and evolving Ponyta and the Rapidash in the process. Finally culminating with the Virus Scan, the item that I need to continue. Heading back into the Haunted Forest with it in tow ends with a battle against a Kangaskhan in the place of Marowak that would have been there in Pokemon Tower, and it's actually catchable unlike Marowak, giving me another Dex entry and the No Ghost Anymore achievement before retrieving Mr. Rumiko, bringing him back to Botan City to get the Pokeflute. Beautiful. Though I did forget to grab Rhyhorn in the cave area of the Castro Mansion. There is a trade later for Rhyhorn in exchange for your own shelter, but that achievement isn't missable, so I don't mind getting this one ahead of time. Especially since I actually need a second Rhyhorn for a trade way later in the postgame, so we'll get to it later. Now with that in hand, the west of Castro Valley is no longer a dead end, plowing through the Castro Forest providing the evolution for Houndour and Houndoom, a Trade Stone for later, and finally Wild Venomoth and Scyther, ending with a staircase exiting west to Route 62. It has 3 encounters in the form of Farfetch'd, Golduck, and Tauros, and I read that Tauros was actually a pretty rare encounter, so the fact that I found it ridiculously quickly means I can't complain. Just across the gate though is our first Snorlax, another quick capture after 3 Ultra Balls to get the Only Sleep or Just Wake Up achievement. 16 down, 24 to go. Just to the north though is another gate into the Regen Power Plant. However, I should probably head back down through that gate since there's 2 little houses right out of that containing the Goodrod and the HM03 Surf. Now then, a barrage of encounters here in the power plant in Magnemite, Chinchou, Magneton, Flaffy, Voltorb, Mareep, and the first of our legendary encounters, Raikou. So guess what? Brown has the same issue as Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that's the legendary beasts have Roar, and they can end the battle and never respawn. That's right, I gotta bash my head in over and over again in order to hope to God that I get it. And I am not at a level where I can minimize the amount of turns in which Raikou can roar, so I should save this for much later. That, and at the time when I was doing this achievement set, all of the legendaries needed to be captured without the Master Ball. They've since been updated, but because of that, I can't use the Master Ball on the guys that have Roar, so it's very annoying. At least the area has an Electrizer though, but I'm a moron and leave the area before grabbing Electabuzz. So after reformatting my team and evolving both Voltorb into Electrode and Chinchou into Lantern, I can head back, grabbing Krabby on the route beforehand, then finally grab Electabuzz, slapping the Electrizer on it to evolve into Electivire, while also using my second Trade Stone on Haunter to evolve it into Gengar. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that Mercen City before has the Water Stone in its Pokemart, so I can grab 4 of those for future-proofing, using one of them to evolve Staryu into Starmie. 112 Pokemon caught, 98 more to go. Speaking of, now that I have all 3 fishing rods, I should probably hunt down the remaining fishing encounters outside of Magikarp. With 2 Poliwag and Goldeen with the Good Rod in Castro Valley, then with the Super Rod I can go south of Alsari City to Route 66 for a Horsey and 2 Shelter, evolving the latter into Cloyster straight away and saving the other for a trade. Lastly is the hometown of Seashore City. With the Super Rod I can pick up Tentacool here. Not a bad haul for a region with only 210 Pokemon. But there's more than that I can grab. Turns out Alsari City is the home of the Game Corner, and since I grabbed the coin case from Moraga Town, I can start getting the exclusive Pokemon from here. However, money has been extremely tight pretty much throughout the whole game due to the abundance of various Pokeballs I've needed to grab for numerous encounters. So I wiped out the rest of the bank account, and it's time to grind coins on the slots. And by grinding coins, I mean chip clipping the auto-fire A button on my controller after saving, then doing other stuff while the game chains coins up to the near max 9999, since for some reason, the slots love just giving you win after win if you manage to get a single win. Now why do I need so many coins? Well, turns out while I was here, I discovered one of the prizes you can get from the game corner is a rare candy for 300 coins. An infinite supply, so I no longer need to grind. That's fantastic. Now I can finish off the evolutions I have had in the box and keep a good supply of rare candies around for future encounters. Though I do need to get the exclusive Pokemon from here first, those being Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile. Using the rest of the coins on rare candies for the moment since I need to hold off on getting Eevee since there's a trade in Botan City, but I need to find Gligar first, and this achievement for that trade will not trigger if I already have Eevee registered in the Pokedex. It takes a whopping 12 coin max outs to 9999 to get me enough rare candies to last me a good while. Not sure if I'm gonna need to do more later, but I should have plenty of rare candies for at least the Pokemon I currently have, evolving Chansey into Blissey at level 55, because for some reason Coolboy Man kept doing this! Pupitar, Tyranitar, Tangrowth, Croconaw, Feraligatr, Quilava, Typhlosion, Bayleaf, Meganium, Tentacruel, Seadra, Ampharos, Kingler, Rhydon, Gunmega at level 43 instead of with Ancient Power, Hypno, Seeking, Poliwrath with a Water Stone, Muck, Weezing, Dodrio, and Dugong to total up to 145 Pokemon. But that only left me with 10 rare candies after 12 max outs. I did not expect to need this many. Guess it's back to slots for another 12 max outs to 9999, 11 of which going towards rare candies, using some of them to push Tangrowth to level 100 while in the first slot of the party to get the full power achievement, with the rest of the team going up to level 70. Figured if I can bust the rest of this game wide open, I should be able to finish the rest of this by day 3. With that sheer length of coin grinding out of the way though, it's time to breeze through a few more achievements. Like yeah, it's bigger than that for trading Shelter for Rhyhorn on Route 49 to the west of Alsari City, connecting north to Route 48 Cycling Road, which then extends to Route 47, where at the northernmost point I can capture a Lickitung. Oh yeah, and there's another Snorlax in the way, but once I get past him I end up in the Johto region. Yeah, turns out the Region region connects to the Johto region by way of a left side entrance between the gates of Route 34 and Ilex Forest. However, the area has been ravaged by natural disasters, hence no wild Pokemon on Route 34 and the entrance to Goldenrod City being blocked off by boulders. But to the south in Ilex Forest, there's at least a Razor Claw for when I find Sneasel. Azalea Town is at least somewhat intact though, with Bugsy still as the city's leader, but there's no gym badge in sight. Instead, he's guarding 2 Pokeballs. Beating him to a pulp with Tyranitar earns me the No Johto Badge Anymore achievement, and an option to either grab Sneasel or Gligar. I can get Gligar later, so I opt to go with Sneasel, evolving it straight away with the Razor Claw into Weavile. Now that's all of Johto we get to visit, sadly, so it's back to Castro Valley to finally take on Koji, out-leveling him by about 30 levels with Pidgeot and blasting wing attacks until the Fist Badge is obtained, along with the Defeat Koji achievement. And with him defeated, Surf's available outside of battle, so that pretty much opens up the rest of the region, such as a trade in Botan City using Butterfree for Tyrogue, earning the Wanna Fight achievement. This one sadly doesn't evolve into Hitmontop automatically, so I'll have to grab the one from the game corner since that one is programmed to exclusively evolve into Hitmontop, so I'll have to do that later. Back to Castro Valley, and to the north is the International Cave, housing the likes of Marill, Swinub, and in this Link's Awakening-esque area, I can get a Duskstone for another evolution later. Last but not least before heading out is Togepi, though I will have to come back after doing that Eevee for Gligar trade since Eevee specifically caught here will evolve into Umbreon exclusively. I would really like to know the trick used to make these different spawn locations for Eevee evolve into certain evolutions, since they're all listed under the same Pokedex entry. Regardless though, with those 3 in hand, it's an easy few rare candies to get Azurill, Piloswine, Mamoswine at level 58 because the game wasn't stingy enough with Gen 4 evolutions already, and finally Togepi into Togetic, and into Togekiss with that shiny stone we obtained from the Sylph Warehouse. Then finally grabbing another Tyrogue from the Alsari Game Corner to evolve into Hitmontop. One more thing I can still pick up with Surf before wrapping up day 2 is the Dragon Scale on Route 61, so I can evolve Seadra into Kingdra. And that's because, holy moly, I went from 8:50 AM to midnight recording all of that. But hopefully that means on day 3 I should be able to finish out the rest of the 19 achievements. Finally heading to some new areas, this time south of Moraga Town through the underground path, surfing west to end up in Igloo City. the home of the Region Safari Zone. There's a lot of stuff in here, not just Pokemon, like executing the first area, as well as Dratini with the Super Rod, which took forever to catch by the way, wiping me clean of all of my Park Balls until literally the last one, grabbing it, then heading back in for the second time to nab up a Metal Coat in Area 2, with Area 3 to the east containing a Trade Stone, and after about a dozen attempts of it running away, Jinx! Dratini takes 40 rare candies to evolve, and what do you know, I'm running out again. Well, at least Machoke only needs a Trade Stone to get Machamp, and Onix a Metal Coat for Steelix, so those are squared away. But there's still more in the Safari Zone. There's a ladder in Area 2's southwesternmost point that contains the secret cave. Not much to do here without strength, but Machop is here to at least finish out the evolution line. With that caught though, I have the red amulet and can head back through Mount Boulder and across a strange Pokemon Mansion-esque hallway, emerging from a cave that was initially blocked by a ledge in Hayward City, yielding the NPC that exchanges it for the Strength HM. Behind the boulder here as well is the Mist Stone, which you'd think would be used to evolve Eevee into Sylveon, but nope, you need a magic wand. Weird. Also, forgot to grab this while I was in that small Johto area, but the Magmarizer is on Route 34, letting me evolve my traded Magmar into Magmortar, as well as in the Slowpoke well, there's a King's Rock in order to evolve Slowpoke into Slowking by simply using it instead of trading it. Lastly, back to Hayward City, since to the south on Route 52 is a small patch to surf into for a 4th Trade Stone, giving me the last evolution of the Gen 1 trades in Alakazam. And right next to that is another new area in the 30 Years Cave, housing Gligar. Perfect. 2 of those in the bag as well as the Protector, and holy moly, the trainers in here have some level 70 plus Pokemon. And here I thought rare candying to the point I did was overboard. Well, back out to evolve Rhydon into Rhyperior, and I can finally do that Eevee trade in Botan City to get the It's So Sweet Isn't achievement. Yeah, It's So Sweet Isn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And today I learned that clip comes from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. How I haven't realized that until now is beyond me. Anyway, this Eevee specifically evolves into Leafeon at level 20, only needing a single rare candy. Hilariously, following this I went back to the International Cave and found Eevee on my second encounter, which by the way did not pop up once while I was looking for the rare Togepi encounter, so I got very lucky, throwing 1 rare candy on it to get Umbreon. And just to save coins I decided to try to get a few more, which ended up popping up like crazy. It almost seems like this encounter unlocked after I did that trade. It sure at least feels like it, since within about 20 encounters I managed to get 4 more Eevee, evolving 3 of them in succession to get Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, with 2 more in the Alsari Game Corner. These 2 specifically evolve into Espeon if you get the first one, but I don't have enough coins for the second one, so it's back to the slots for me! I still do need a few more rare candies though, so it's a good thing, particularly since there are 4 more evolutions for me to take care of throughout the entire game. So I take a little time to generate the coins for both the second Eevee from the Clerk to evolve into Glaceon, and to load up on another stack of rare candies. Also, during this session, I managed to land 7 lucky 7s in a row, with an 8th happening within 10 spins. Sheesh, I wish I was that lucky at a real slot machine. It would be great to have a free money hack like that. With 181 Pokemon in hand though, it's back to Igloo City, since with the Mist Stone, I can enter this here cave that leads to the city's gym, housing another King's Rock so I can get Politoed before taking on... right. There's the first of a few pallet patrollers here in the gym with a decent team, and I was under the impression that this was one of the ones that I had to take down with only 1 Pokemon in my party, hence my lone Blastoise. Alas, that was incorrect, that comes later. Thankfully it doesn't matter, since Blastoise can just solo that and Giovanni's team straight after, ripping through Rhydon with Surf, Crobat with Ice Beam, Kangaskhan and Rhyperior with Surf, leaving just Persian to fall to a Surf and Ice Beam combo meal, which remains at an affordable $4.49 before tax. That's the Star Badge and Defeat Giovanni Round 2 achievement down, though I think I skipped over a few gyms. One of which is in our hometown of Seashore City, only accessible via Surf, which is just a mirror of the town, housing a bunch of trainers with Cheryl lying on this lone island that has a house with no entrance. I really dig this gym's design. It throws you off for a minute, being like, wait, didn't I just enter the gym? What happened? Only to realize that it's an illusion conjured up as a challenge for trainers. Honestly, I would love if this sort of concept was used in a mainline title. Super creative for a hack originally released in 2004. However, the fight is short-lived since, yeah, I was supposed to fight Cheryl before Giovanni, taking out her Starmie, Slowbro, Executor, and Alakazam all with Rapidash to earn the Psy Badge and the Defeat Cheryl achievement. 24 down, 16 to go, and before I fight that final gym over in the Castro Forest, you remember that Raikou that was in the power plant? Yeah, it's about time I go and grab it. I decided to cheese it with Blastoise's Ice Beam, with 2 of them being just enough to bring it into the red, and given these are Gen 1 freeze mechanics, they can't defrost without an Ice Heal or a move that I use that can inflict a burn. It's just a few resets until Raikou gets frozen, and I'm able to lob a few Great Balls at it to capture the electric legendary Pokemon, earning the namesake achievement. Turns out this is also random, as either Zapdos or Raikou can appear here, and I have no idea what determines that. But I'm glad I had an easy way of getting around that really annoying roar nonsense. However, I really should get that last gym badge before getting the rest of the legendaries. If you remember that staircase used to get out of Castro Forest to end up west of the area, there's another bit of the area that I skipped over to the south, and I can just surf across a small pond right up to the gym. It's a replica of Blaine's gym, so I just plow through the trainers instead of answering questions, reaching Joe and his normal types. Tyranitar's the perfect counter here, crunching Raticate, Earthquaking Persian, Rock Sliding Pidgeot, then finally double Earthquaking Snorlax to earn the white badge and defeat Joe achievement. And that's the last gym badge needed to enter the Region League. But like I said, there's more legendaries. If you recall the secret cave down in Area 2 of the Safari Zone, turns out at the end with just barely enough steps, you can get to the legendary notorious for being in caves, Mewtwo. Or Mew, depending on what the game randomly chooses when you started your save file. Or whatever chooses it, I still don't know. Of course, it's easy Blastoise Freeze Cheese, throwing 4 Great Balls to capture it and earn the Psychic Legendary Pokemon achievement. Also, while I'm down here, I may as well grab Primeape from the cave since it's the only place I can get it. I may not have to come back to the Safari Zone again, but Igloo City isn't quite done yet providing legendaries, since right next to the Igloo Safari Zone is the other entrance to Mount Boulder, previously inaccessible since I didn't have strength. Now that I do though, it's possible to head to the first basement floor, and at the end of the rock maze is our next legendary Pokemon, Articuno. Well, I was really hoping for Suicune since it would have been freezable, but at least it doesn't have Roar, so I can waltz in, use 2 Ice Beams to bring it down to the red, then start lobbing Ultra Balls. Blastoise gets frozen in the process, but it doesn't end up mattering in the end, since I managed to get Articuno to stay in a ball after only 4 thrown, earning the Water Legendary Pokemon achievement. Ah, yes, Articuno, the famous Water-type Pokemon. I get it, Suicune could be here too, but that just means that there should be a different achievement name. Last from the Gen 1 and 2 trio is back in the 30 Years Cave to the north of Seashore City, housing both the Green Orb, which I could have believed was for Rayquaza since this was before the Jade Orb's invention, but like I mentioned, it's just TM fodder. But there's a pretty intensive strength puzzle in here that's a huge brain teaser, but I managed to get through it just fine, reaching the bottom right area with a ladder that leads to the northern part of the same floor. I mean, just look at this map. It goes from that bottom right ladder to the ladder in the north near the middle of the map. That makes no sense, but at least it's not a friggin' door maze. Any of you ever play Bebe's Kids for the Super Nintendo, that one video game that the Nostalgia Critic reviewed over 15 years ago? Yeah, thank God it's not that kind of door maze. At the end though lies the Fire-type legendary beast, Entei. Can't freeze a Fire-type in Gen 1 either, so I opted to use Tangrowth for the situation. Despite being double the level of Entei, Slam does the perfect amount of damage to bring Entei into the red in one shot to minimize the amount of turns that it can possibly use Roar. But of course, it can still happen. First try, Roar on turn 1 after landing Slam. But the second tries the charm as a Slam and a half-dozen Great Balls manages to do the job, earning the Fire Legendary Pokemon achievement. After this, there's 2 more easy achievements to get back-to-back since turns out those Seneca Caverns have something at the end, though there are a few encounters that I skipped over in here since I was underleveled back when I got Golbat and Machoke, those being Misdreavus and Wooper on the first floor. Then on the first basement floor is Heracross and Murkrow, with the latter of those being really annoying to catch, like worse than the legendary's annoying because it took more balls. One more floor down, surrounded by water, has a 1% spawn of Aerodactyl, which only took a few minutes to appear, so that makes up for the annoying Murkrow. But at the very bottom is the Helix fossil, which I'll need later. Going back up a few floors, there's another exit that lands me to the other end of the cave to a Pokemon Center where I can evolve Misdreavus into Mismagius with the previously acquired Duskstone, Wooper into Quagsire with a rare candy, along with a man selling a Jigglypuff for... Oh, that's a lot more than the 500 I expected. I'll have to come back though with the 60,000 to get that, but in the house just south is a man who has the magic wand needed to evolve Eevee into Sylveon, so after that and getting enough money to get Jigglypuff, I can head back to purchase it and earn the So Rich achievement. Out of here and back to Hayward City we go, as the lab to revive fossils is in the southeasternmost building, so I can leave the Helix fossil here, fly over to Igloo City since for some reason it only triggers the revival if you go there, then fly back to grab myself an Ammonite, earning me the Just Study Fossil achievement. Man, some of these names just are stumping me, man. Regardless, 20 rare candies gets me an Amistar, putting me up to 198 Pokemon, and with a Razorfang being available in Ilex Forest, that can be used to evolve Gligar into Gliscor. I'm only 11 short of finishing the dex as much as I can in one save file, but I've got to take on the Pokemon League first. No victory road here in Region, so I can head straight through the badge gates and into Talrus Heights. There's an achievement that requires me to beat the league with only one Pokemon though, so Blastoise should be more than enough to take me home. Especially after rare candying to level 95 to see if I can do it there. The first member of the Elite Four, Red, no not that one, is a Fire-type user and just of course gets blasted by 5 Surfs to give me the win. Then Jared comes up second, which is also a pushover, with the only threats on his team being Vileplume and Venusaur, which fall to 1 Ice Beam each. This brings me to Agatha, which for some reason is just not a changed character, she's the same as Kanto, who naturally gets blown away with Dig and Ice Beam on Gengar, Crobat, Gengar number 2, and Arbok, leaving Mismagius as the only Pokemon that survives one attack, taking a Surf just barely before poisoning, but going down next turn. All that remains of the Elite Four is Drake, no not that one, geez, why did this hack recycle names like this? And of course, he's the Flying type master. Well, yeah, okay, he has a Kingdra, so 2 Dragon types, but 4 Flying types, so we're still going with that. Kingdra is his lead as I go for Strength with Blastoise, doing half as he uses Leer. Great choice there, buddy, have a KO. The remainder of the team falls much quicker, with Aerodactyl going down to Surf, Gyarados to 2 Strengths, Dragonite to Ice Beam, and Surf to Charizard to win. Alright, all that remains is the champion, naturally being the rival, Mira. And I've got to say, it's really odd that we only fought this guy 3 times during the whole game, with all of them happening within the first half of the game. Not the most climactic thing, but no matter. His team should be easy enough to take care of. His lead is Dodrio falling to Ice Beam, Tyranitar to Surf, Weezing to his own Explosion after going underground for Dig, then Politoed to Dig and Strength after using Amnesia, second to last is Houndoom so it goes down to Surf, leaving just Venusaur to fall to 2 Ice Beams, not nearly managing to survive thanks to Mega Drain, earning me the win, the Region Championship, and the achievements Pokemon Master and Elite Stomp. We might have finished the game, but there's still 7 achievements left to go. Now that I can retrieve the rest of my team, it's time to prepare for the game's final gauntlet, the final dungeon. Despite the unoriginal name, honestly, it kinda goes hard. Like, this is your final challenge. We are going to throw everything at you and see if anything sticks. Fight against it, or fail trying. Accessible from Ayward City through this small house next to the department store, it's just a gauntlet with tons and tons of powerful trainers, and I've got to get through here for the last 7 achievements. These trainers are even more powerful than the champion, though with a team of level 100, level 97, and 3 more in the upper 80s, it's more than manageable. The underground passage is a bit of a maze, but simple enough until it spits me out into a staircase into an open area with even more trainers, eventually leading to a large building that turns into essentially a more complicated Sylph Company, complete with the levels shooting up to the early to mid 80s. Yeah, we are not going to have the advantage for much longer. There is an item around here though in the Dubious Disc, so I'll be able to get Porygon Z later, but for now it's continue to pound away until I run out of power points on my team. Though about halfway through this big-ass building are a Max Ether, Max Revive, and Max Elixir, letting me heal Tyranitar's points since I already ran out thanks to the frequency of trainers and the size of their teams, normally being between 3 and 5 members. One of the rockets tells me about a Pokemon they managed to capture, that being Lugia, and you guessed it, we'll be getting not actually Lugia, but the opposite versions exclusive in Ho-Oh. Once through the Silphco-like area, it's down into an actual cave that seems even more labyrinthian than Cerulean Cave, crawling with even more trainers, but also housing Pinsir, bringing me up to 200 Pokemon. Just 10 more, I'm so close! And since this cave is also where the last in-game trade resides, I figured I'd dig out with Blastoise, evolve Porygon 2 into Porygon Z, and pick up Rhyhorn for that last trade. If you had a keen eye so far, you'll have noticed we never evolved Golbat into Crobat, and that's purely for this last trade as it's missable if you get the Dex entry. For some reason, the only one that isn't missable is the Shelter for Rhyhorn trade, so that was fine. Though it is cool that you can essentially use a Shelter to eventually trade for a Crobat in the postgame, if you're willing to go through a small trade chain. Also, turns out I completely forgot you can bypass the need for the SS ticket over in Castro Valley, since you can surf around the guard, go behind the truck, and there's actually something underneath it this time. That being the Coronet Stone usable to evolve Magneton into Magnezone. Oh yeah, and I'm out of rare candies again. One more trip to the slot machines to get the team to level 98 along with the necessary candies to evolve the last 2 captures are in order, but it doesn't take long since I only need 2 coin max outs to get them, getting the rest of the team leveled and just enough candies to evolve the last 2 fossils. Not quite 100 since I'm bound to hit that thanks to the remaining trainers though. I also have to bring the card key back with me to the final dungeon since the door to the Gen 2 box legendary is blocked by it, but with the remainder of preparations for the rest of the dungeon, I can head back to the big cave, with the floor I was last on having the dome fossil at the top left corner. Well, I could have stood to grab that earlier, but I'll revive it once I have to go back to deposit my team for the last 2 achievements that need me to only have 1 Pokemon in my party for the battle. Also on this floor is a ladder leading to the NPC that wants to trade my Rhyhorn for their Crobat, earning me the very rare A achievement, putting me up to 203 Pokemon. Heading back into the main cave, there's a first basement floor, and all of a sudden the Pokemon are nearing the level 90s. But there's still no match for my nearly max level team, but they sure are getting closer and closer. Finally on this floor is that room that needs the card key, but oops, apparently that's just to get the SS ticket that we made obsolete thanks to Surf. Well, at least there's still Ho-Oh in the room. Still find it strange that you get the opposite of what the other grunt mentioned earlier on, since they only mentioned one getting captured by Team Rocket, but why is the other one also captured by Team Rocket if they're talking about the other one? Whatever, I don't care. Regardless, it earns me the gold or silver legendary Pokemon achievement with 5 remaining. It's still a massive maze though, eventually leading me to a room with a teleporting pad puzzle. Oh boy, I love these! I did have to comb through here to make sure I picked up the last Dusk Stone for Honchkrow later, but once that small puzzle was done, I'm thrown outside for the final bit. Just 3 more grunts to go. The TMs in this area also helped immensely, getting the likes of Solar Beam for Tangrowth, Aeroblast for Pidgeot, Flamethrower for Rapidash, so I'm able to just plow through the mid-90s level area here, beating the 3rd and final Rocket Grunt of the area and talking to him afterwards to receive the Skull Fossil. Perfect. As the area culminates with the final trainer, another Pallet Patrol. I have to take him down with only 1 Pokemon in my party as part of the achievement set, but considering he has 5 level 100 Pokemon, it's definitely going to be a challenge. Of course, that means one last set of preparations, including evolving Murkrow into Honchkrow with the Dusk Stone, then reviving both Kabuto for the Study Another Fossil achievement, evolving into Kabutops, and Study Fossil 3rd time for reviving Cranidos, evolving into Rampardos. With 209 Pokemon out of 210 and 2 items behind the Pallet Patrol, that last evolution item is bound to be behind him so that I can complete the Pokedex as much as possible. But I've got to take him out with my trusty starter, Blastoise, with him starting Meganium. But I'm up to the challenge, with 2 Ice Beams taking out Meganium before it can manage to fire off a massive Solar Beam, leading to Typhlosion, who falls to Surf after landing a Quick Attack. Feraligatr is the only decent wall against me on this team, but a few strengths manages to put it down after seeing a few attempts at Screech, which leaves the last major threat of the team, Ampharos. However, Blastoise manages to outspeed, use Dig, dodging Thunderbolt, and one-shotting to KO, leaving just Rhyperior to get drowned out by Surf, earning the win in really convincing fashion, along with the Impossible and Master of Brown version achievements. But I'm not quite the master after all, though I do appreciate the little foreshadowing of Pokemon Prism and the Naljo region from the Patroller, followed by a little developer message left by Coolboy Man thanking us for enjoying Pokemon Brown. I may have a few little complaints here and there, but honestly this is one of my favorite ROM hacks. The variety of Pokemon is fantastic. The final dungeon is such a fun gauntlet of high-level trainers and mazes. There's a ton of little secrets like finding the legendaries and the fossils, and the little connections to mainline titles like the region being connected to Johto being the cycling road on routes 48 and 47 being a nice touch. But with the last metal coat along with the golden egg behind the Pallet Patroller, I'm able to head back to the PC, evolve Scyther into Scizor, and earn the Gotta Catch 'em All Brown achievement, finishing Pokemon Brown set with a time of 24 hours and 11 minutes of playtime, though 84 hours and 51 minutes of in-game time. Considering how much of that time was spent in front of the slots, I think that's a pretty appropriate time spent on this game. It's great. Honestly, give it a shot if you're hankering for a new Pokemon experience. But with that, I must bid you adieu. Just a reminder before you leave to make sure you're subscribed, like the video, leave a comment if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to vote on the next ROM hack I do a Retro Achievements video on, which is between Super Mario Mon, Pokemon Prism, and Pokemon Crystal Clear, become a channel member. It really helps support the channel, and I could really use the help so I can afford bringing editors back to the channel and pump out more content for you guys. But with that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.